joining us now. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander, New York Times diplomatic correspondent Michael Crowley, and MSNBC legal correspondent, because there are legal questions here, Lisa Rubin. Peter, you are with the president in Saudi Arabia. He's getting the royal treatment out there. Walk us through this trip.
Well, tonight, as we speak, President Trump is now enjoying a formal dinner alongside the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. It is striking to see the difference in terms of the relationship between this president, President Trump, and his predecessor, Joe Biden, who you'll remember campaigned on making Saudi Arabia a pariah in the international community. Ultimately, he had to come back here trying to get help from the Saudis to relieve the high oil prices. This President Donald Trump is coming in with a very different view of Saudi Arabia, describing the tremendous relationship between the two, saying of MBS, who, of course, the U.S. assessed was responsible for ordering the death of Jamal Khashoggi, that Washington Post columnist, the president saying that he is, of MBS, wise beyond his years. But the focus here, really, as you noted, is deal-making as diplomacy. That's the president's biggest view, making big announcements at an investment conference taking place a matter of hours ago. Hundreds of billions of dollars from each country, companies in the U.S. investing here, Saudi Arabia investing in the United States, and back and forth. That really is what we anticipate will be the focus for the stops again tomorrow in Qatar, United Arab Emirates, the final stop for the president as well. He did make one other headline we should note that's significant as it affects this region here. The president today announcing just a short time ago that he will be ending sanctions on Syria. Of course, those sanctions were focused on the Assad regime that has since been deposed. A new president now running the country there. The president expressing optimism that that new president, who he says he will meet with here before departing Saudi Arabia tomorrow, will be able to bring out peace to this region. But the sanctions are important because they also allow for new aid and investment into that country as well. Katie.
Deals, deals, deals. That's what the president and the White House say they want. Do we have an idea of what sort of deals he is after, Peter? He's in Saudi Arabia now. He's going to go to Qatar. He's going to go to the UAE. Do they have diplomatic deals on the horizon? Is it to visit properties? What's going on?
Well, in terms of diplomatic deals, there was some hope in the past that the president was going to be able to come with the normalization of relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Clearly, that has not happened and is not going to happen over the course of this trip. So, again, the deals that are being announced today are very heavily focused on things like energy, on technology, and military equipment as well. An arms sale, the U.S. announcing of $142 billion, the White House says, in arms, military war-making, war-fighting equipment and other equipment to the Saudi Arabian kingdom. More than $140 billion worth. That's money that is music to the ears of Donald Trump. So that's certainly something that he has been weighing in on heavily during the course of his visit. The backdrop to this, obviously, is you'll be discussing the situation as it relates to Qatar as he goes there tomorrow, with new controversy surrounding the use of a jumbo luxury jet as a potential future Air Force One.
Yeah, and I'll talk about the emoluments clause and the concern even among some Republicans about that jet. But again, Michael, as we kind of laid out at the top, it isn't just the jet. I mean, the Trump family and the Trump business have grown much deeper in their ties to the Middle East. We laid out a number of the hotels, the golf clubs, the investment in Donald Trump's cryptocurrency, the relationship between the golf tournament in Saudi Arabia with Donald Trump's properties. He's going to a place that is giving him a lot of money, spending a lot of money in the Trump organization or spending a lot of money with Donald Trump's sons. Have you ever reported on anything quite like this before?
I really haven't, and yeah, you mentioned the sons at the end there. Jared Kushner has done some pretty lucrative dealings in the region also. I'm not sure about the last handful of months, but certainly during the election season and when it looked quite possible that his father-in-law was going to be returning to the Oval Office. So that's a big part of the picture here. And, it makes you think about some of the other things that passed for scandals in years past. You might recall, I might get the details. I'm foggy in the details, but the Clinton Foundation was accused by Republicans of taking foreign donations for, who knows what purpose, to influence the foundation. I guess the idea was that Hillary Clinton might have been en route to becoming president, and these foreign governments were trying to win favor. And Republicans were obsessed with this for months, maybe now about 15 years ago. I mean, that's nothing compared to what we're seeing now. And it just is another way in which we're seeing the norms around American politics and the American presidency just being sort of blown away. And Trump is trying to demonstrate, and mostly successfully, we'll see what happens with the jet because Congress is very upset about that, that you can just kind of go for it and do what you want, dare people to stop you. And it turns out that it's not so easy, particularly when you have a president who has the intense, following and loyalism that this one does within his own party.
You say norms, I would say basic ethics. Let me just play. You mentioned the Republicans going wild over claims about Hillary Clinton. Let me play Republicans on what they called the Biden crime family just a few months ago.
We have a simple question that I think an overwhelming majority of Americans have. What did the Bidens do to receive the tens of millions of dollars from our enemies around the world?
The latest on the Biden crime family is the $5 million partnership between Hunter and the Communist Chinese once again, and then you trickle the money down through Hunter and multiple shell corporations, which you got to ask yourself, why do they have shell corporations? And then it ends up $40,000 for the big guy. And, as you follow the trail, all the circular trail of the money, it's just another week, another corrupt business deal.
The purpose of all these companies being created is to conceal money that the Biden family has been gaining because Joe Biden has been sitting at the upper echelon of our politics for almost 5 decades. That is the entire purpose here.
They have found over $10 million from China, Russia, Ukraine, and Romania funneled through the corrupt influence peddling schemes to line the pockets of the Biden crime family. The Biden crime family sold out America, and the American people have had enough.
So, I mean, yeah, it's along the lines of what you were just talking about, Michael. And I wonder why we're not hearing the same thing from Republicans who were so concerned about it then. I mean, I wonder, I'm putting that in quotes, is it really just politics? It doesn't matter what the person's doing as long as they're the one on your team.
It's pretty hard to explain otherwise. I haven't seen Republicans try to defend it. And those Biden allegations, I mean, it depends on the particulars, but basically no one ever established clear corruption.
Yeah.
Some of what Hunter was doing seemed inappropriate. But, in this case, but even if you grant that, the sums of money compared to what we're talking about here were peanuts. They were nothing. The dollar figures here are astronomical compared to that. So you really would like to see Republicans try to explain the difference.
Let me talk now about the jet in particular. Let me play. There's some Republicans that are uncomfortable with it, and we've been gathering that sound. They say they want to look into it. But here's a little bit more of a direct criticism from Trump world, or at least a Trump ally, had been a Trump ally until recently, it seems. Ben Shapiro calling the acceptance of this jet skeezy.
That's not America first. Like, please define America first in a way that says you should take sacks of cash from the Qatari royals who are behind Al Jazeera. It just isn't America first in any conceivable way. So back to the original question. Is this good for President Trump? Is it good for his agenda? Is it good for draining the swamp and getting things done? The answer is no, it isn't. It isn't. If you want President Trump to succeed, this kind of skeezy stuff needs to stop.
Let's talk about the emoluments clause, which we all learned about back in late 2016, 2017, when it came to the Trump Hotel and some of the gifts that he was getting there. That wasn't as clear cut as what we're seeing now, you could argue. I mean, maybe you'll say it is pretty clear cut. But to get a $400 million jet from a foreign government, and one that, by the way, he says would go to the government, but then would only be in use while he's there, and then would go to the presidential library. It's not like the Qataris are saying you can have this as Air Force One indefinitely, although there might be a problem with that as well. How does this not violate the emoluments clause?
It's not clear to me that it does not violate the emoluments clause. And the only reason that we don't have case law that defines what a violation of the Emoluments Clause is effectively because the courts ran out of time. There were 3 cases toward the end of the Trump presidency where the Supreme Court could have passed on the meaning, Katie, of the Emoluments Clause as it pertained to President Trump. In one case, they declined to hear the case. That was one brought by Democratic members of Congress. The other 2 had appeals court rulings that refused to dismiss those cases. And yet, once President Trump was in office, or out of office, rather, the Supreme Court said effectively, these are moot. We don't have to decide these now. I also want to point out to you, though, and our viewers, that when Trump came into office this time, he came in with an ethics agreement, or at least a white paper that his then ethics advisor, Bill Burke, who has since been fired by the Trump Corporation, came up with. And one of the things they say in that ethics paper is they acknowledge that the Emoluments Clause prevents federal officers from accepting gifts or other emolument from foreign, federal, or state governments or government officials, and then go on to say that it doesn't prohibit, for example, ordinary business transactions that businesses that President Trump still has interest in might engage in. But at the end of it, they say to the extent that he's doing business with foreign governments, as you reviewed at the top of the show, he's going to donate all the profits from that to the United States Treasury. So if this ethics agreement is still in operation, not only is the Qatari jet deal suspicious, but also someone should ask the Trump Organization, are you donating profits from all these overseas deals that where you are building hotels or resorts like you said you were going to? The company in this agreement is defined as the Trump Organization, the Revocable Trust, and all of their parents and subsidiaries, the whole universe of Trump organizations. Are they, in fact, going to donate those profits to the Treasury as promised?
It's quite a lot of money. All right, Lisa Rubin, Peter Alexander, Michael Crowley, thank you.